Brother, a podcast where we try to figure it all out. With your hosts, Brandon and Collin. On this week's show, Leaving the House. Ahoy!
Ahoy!
How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
I am well. I have been loving the new weather turn that we've had. Although I did hear what did somebody say the other day? It was like, hey, when's it going to rain? This mud out here is getting a little too dry. Because it's so bad. Oh my gosh.
You know, fun fact.
Oh.
At least here, right? In the southern part of the state here, the difference in temperature, right, from last week to this week, it is 80 degrees warmer.
Oh, that is horrible.
I mean, we did start at negative 15. So
Sure.
like
when you have a low point,
but there is an 80 degree temperature difference from last week to this week.
That's yeah. It's real.
Think about that.
Real zesty
What the
there.
heck?
Oh my gosh.
That's wild, is what that is.
It is. And like it's man, nature is amazing. As soon as it warmed up just a little bit, like we've got like just like, I saw my first fly flying around outside because it's finally warm.
I know.
Oh my
Ridiculous.
gosh.
It wastes no time, right? Pollen and the bugs. Immediately done. Like,
no, seriously, like the next day when it was like 70 degrees, my body was already like, yes, I will soon be in full revolt against you. Looking forward to this. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah. Let's go.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, it's but it's been good. You know, we are in this weird in between, this liminal space, I guess, of just everybody is gearing and kind of ready for spring break. Or I'm sure you feel this too. Like, of course, you weren't in school for like 14 days.
I mean, yeah, we were just had a break. So this week's been the opposite. It's been like, gosh.
I just
5 days in a row. What is this?
Oh, why is this would be against the Geneva Convention. But we're just in this time where it is kind of busy as far as like business wise, but like we know that there's just over this little hump, and then it's just going to be insane with all the travel. And so I'm feeling kind of like antsy and anxious, just ready to like get it, because we just see it coming like little by little every couple of days, getting another booking. And so going, well, here we go. So I'm just,
it's coming.
It's kind of futzing around. Gotta finish my taxes. I gotta get my, when you're self-employed, the wonderful thing is that the IRS, so I have to find my personal taxes. So I have to tell the IRS how much money I made. But then the IRS is going to go, wait, where'd you get that number? So I, as a business, have to tell the government how much money I'm paying myself, so that when I record it on my own documents, they can compare it to sales. Because they'll say,
interesting.
Yeah. So on the self-employment, it'll be like, enter the number from the K2 document. And I'll be like, what's the K? What? And then I'm like, who gives me the K2 document?
Oh, wait, I do.
Oh, that's me. I give me the K2 document. It's so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
What do mountains have to do with any of this? I don't understand.
So it's like when I file my taxes, technically it's kind of, I have to do them twice, because I have to get like the business side, and then I have to tell the government.
Do you have to make sure the business taxes are filed first? Before you can do your
So this is
tax, because there needs to be a record of your business that you pay yourself personally. Like
so I my business taxes are due. I have to get those in by March 15th. And so that's when those are due. Right? March. Yeah. And then personal taxes aren't due until April, right?
Yeah.
So I've got to get in the business first and then that. And technically, we are an LLC. Well, not technically. We are an LLC. There's no technicality here. Sorry.
Legally, we are.
So we are an LLC, and an LLC is known as welcome to Tax Talk, people. This is not tax advice. Do not listen to anything that I'm saying.
Yeah.
Please, for the love of... but an LLC...
If he gets anything wrong, please write to us at...
123 Nation Town Street. An LLC is what's known as a pass-through entity. So there's no business taxes paid. All I pay are self-employment taxes. So I am the one who pays those taxes. Now, sure, can the business pay? Yes, but it's just because it's me. Like, it's us acting as the business.
Yeah.
But it's not as though... Now, if we were an S Corp, I would pay my business taxes, and then the business would actually withhold my income taxes, and I would receive a paycheck from the business. I don't want to do that. That's but usually
like a lot more paperwork is what it sounds
usually
like.
At that point, you're hired. You've hired a CPA and a tax advisor, and they just handle all of that, and you just get stuff sent to you, and you hire a bookkeeper, and those outside forces are the ones that are managing that side, and you just kind of collect and move on. So right now we're not to that scale, and I've crunched a few different numbers. It still makes the most sense for us to currently just file jointly as a pass through and file just our own personal taxes or self-employment, which are 30%. So if you're wondering, for every dollar I make, I pay I need to set aside 30% for taxes, which is fun. And I have to pay those quarterly because the government wants their money. So
that sounds riveting.
Absolutely.
Okay. How does it make you feel that you pay more taxes doing that than Warren Buffett has to pay at all?
Well,
how does that make you feel?
I know.
Right?
There you go. If I know. And now that's not, it's just like, that's the immediate tax bracket and that's the self-employment taxes. And then you get the hit for, because that's what would go towards like Social Security and all of that stuff that gets taken out of everybody else's paychecks. And then I pay additional taxes above and beyond that, depending on what tax bracket we fall in and however that works out, kind of fun stuff like that. So that's, yeah. But yes, it's fun to know that for what little meager thing we're kind of like scratching and clawing our way about. And it's like, some people pay zero. And I'm like, that's,
yeah. Because they're more important. Because as we know, in the United States of America, if you're rich, you're more important than everyone else.
That's what
I've learned.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense. You're more of you are more valuable, so you have more value.
Yeah, and allegedly. This is allegedly the case, right?
I mean, hard to argue against that. It's the logic seems pretty sound.
Except for it's very easy to argue against that. But anyway, that's not what this show's about.
No, it's not. It's not about late stage capitalism. Or is it
seizing the means of production? Right. It's not about any of that. It's speaking of production.
Oh,
I hear that.
Oh,
I want to hear about this. Nary had the snow melted, and Collin went on an adventure.
He got
out his handkerchief, right, and he went on an adventure.
I did. I bound up my lunch and my pail and an extra pair of shoes, and I tied it to a stick, and I hit the rails, and I went off. No, I don't know. Like, we go through these phases. We were just like, we want to go somewhere. And when you're in the middle of the...
After not being able to go anywhere for a week, and that's fair.
And things not being very nice. And it's like, plus, again, if before mentioned discussion about the incoming busyness, it's like, I know we're going to have trouble getting away on a regular, consistent basis. So, like, let's go do something. Now, here's also the problem. We couldn't leave Friday night. So we knew we had to leave first thing Saturday. So we only were going to have one night away because we had to get back home.
You have a radius, right?
So we have and radius. So you're in the middle of the middle, right? The middle,
True,
as I like to call it. Like you're not getting on a plane to go anywhere real quick. Like you're not, and all of a sudden you
go
start
to Minneapolis. Ooh,
right?
there you go.
I'm not looking to drive. Like, plus we got two smaller kids, so I'm like, I don't want to be in the car for 8 hours because again,
that's true.
Whatever I drive one day, I still have to have time to do something.
Come back. Yeah, and you have to come back. Yeah.
So then we were like, okay, I think I just started thinking. I was like, what's like 2 hours? Okay, do we want to go to the lake? Well, it wasn't supposed to be like super nice, and I can't jump in the water anyway. And so I was like, well, that's kind of pointless to go to the lake because the lake from us is only like an hour and a half. So it's like, well, it's great in the summer,
but not quite the right time of year for that.
Not there yet. So I started expanding, and then all of a sudden, I was reminded of the coolest place to go to if you are near that part of the world. You should definitely go. And so I told Megan, I said, I know where we're going, and she was like, what? And I said, Mineral Springs, Kansas. And she said,
there you go.
I don't know where that is. And I went, that's fine. Nobody does.
I do. I have a refrigerator magnet.
See?
It's West Mineral.
West Mineral. Sorry. Yeah. West Mineral. Sorry, not Mineral Springs. West Mineral, Kansas. And she was like, I don't know. Said, well, there's a giant.
Did she go, why?
Yeah. I said, no, I know you're just brimming over with excitement.
Yeah.
We're going to go see the world's largest electric coal shovel.
Yeah, you are.
And there was a long pause, and she went, okay.
It's like, why?
Like,
all right,
well,
whatever.
In the places we had a toss up. Okay, I will be honest. We had a toss up. We could drive 3 hours to go see Big Brutus, or we could drive 5.5 hours to go out to see the Swamp Bottomlands out in the Boot Heel, which I am. This is a place we're going to go. Like it's just on our list, but it's not for a one night down and back trip.
No, that's a much more like intensive trip to drive out all the way out there.
You at least need to leave on a Friday to have all day Saturday and then come back Sunday in order to do that. Because there's quite a bit. It's all spread out pretty, So planning wise, I was like, we're going to go see
far away.
Like really away.
Yes. And there's no, it's also in Missouri, right? We particularly have this problem, right? I don't know about other Midwest states have this as well, right? And then when we start getting to the plain states, it's even worse. But like geographically, things aren't necessarily like super far away, like as the crow flies.
Oh,
right.
Oh, yes.
It's not real far, but then trying to find a road to get there is a whole other story altogether. Right? Like sometimes you have to go on a very circuitous route to get where you're trying to go. And so that just like adds up even more, right? It conveniently places like the state capital are kind of hard to get to because there's no like interstate road that goes there. You have to like go over this way and then take this state highway and then cut back across and get there. So like they really did a good job with that one. MoDOT, like what the heck?
Oh my gosh,
are you doing?
well, and then the planners kept on putting weird random lakes in the middle of everything, and so it's like, you know what?
That's true.
If this lake wasn't here, there'd be a nice straight shot for you to get across.
That doesn't help when they're like, let's build a dam on this river too. You're like, wait,
yes,
no, hold on.
Oh no! So that is where we it takes a long time to get there. And then what was weird is we got waylaid Saturday morning, and so we didn't actually leave until 9, which was way later than we wanted to be. Wait, no, 8. It was 8 because we wanted to leave at 7. We were an hour late for various reasons. We're driving, and I was like, oh, I don't think there's going to place to eat lunch near Big Brutus. We should probably eat lunch before we get there. And so I said, oh, let's just stop in Joplin.
Yeah.
And in a way that the roads are configured that I do not understand.
No.
The distance from us to Big Brutus was 3 hours. The distance from us to Joplin is 3 hours. The distance from Joplin to Big Brutus is 50 minutes.
Yeah. It's weird. Well, there's no road. Like, again, you have to go back up, and then partly due to where West Mineral is located, right? You have to like go like over, and then there's a couple different ways you can get there, but like kind of have to like go up to Webb City and then like almost up to Pittsburgh and like across, right? It's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not a way to get there, right?
Nope.
Again, yeah, it's not geographically far away.
Nope.
But it's not, there's not a clean route to
nope.
go there.
Not a clean route. And this broke my brain as I was driving down the road, and Megan was like, well, it's 3 hours. I was like, okay, cool. She's like, well, this one's 3 hours. I was like, oh, so they're like, I was like, I thought they were a little bit further away. And she's like, yeah, they're still 50 minutes apart, Collin. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, well, so anyway, we got lunch. We went over there, and it's so Kansas is a bit flat, right? But you start seeing all of the old mine pits as you're driving along. And
yeah.
And this part of the country has been so tortured with mining that the hills and stuff, while it's like, oh, there's a pretty hill, it all feels just a
mining,
bit wrong.
Mining cast off is what it is.
Right? Yeah, it all feels a bit wrong, and it's like this doesn't. It's a bit incongruous with what I saw a mile that way. And so I start pointing out like, oh, here's a lake, and that it was dug by mining. And you know, that's weird. And then
it is, even when you look on the satellite, I'm looking on the like just satellite images right now, like there's all these huge like body inconspicuously straight lines, right?
Really weird.
Like the satellite map is ridiculous because it's just like, yep, this lake has a 90-degree angle. Right? Like, that lake is not necessarily the right word, but it is like a big body of water.
Oh yeah, I mean they call them lakes, and it's fine.
It's
like we'll let them have it.
But it's just like this field is flooded in straight lines.
In straight lines. There's afterward. So cutting to this real quick. Afterwards, we went to some of these. Went to one of the wildlife areas because they were like, well, this is all just mines and mine casting. We can't do anything with this. So we're just going to block it off for wildlife, right? This is the wildlife.
Yeah, there's like several wildlife areas, like right
mining
there.
Wildlife areas, or whatever they're called.
The Strip Pit State Wildlife Management Area.
Yes, you're like, oh, that's awesome.
What a fun name that is!
Wow,
strip mining pit. Yeah.
Strip mining pits, and we stopped at one, and it literally, the strips were such that it just looked like a giant hand had drug its fingers straight through mud, because it was like big trench, little tiny ridge, big trench, little tiny ridge, and it's like you could walk from ridge to around the ridge and be like, oh, here's a lake and here's a lake. They're not connected, and it's a straight line for 300 yards that way.
And then conspicuously, there's a giant electric shovel nearby. I wonder what made these holes.
I have no idea. And then driving along too, you see along the road, you see these trenches that go back and through a hillside where smaller shovels, right, had dug. The whole thing just feels so weird. But yeah, we're driving along, and then you start seeing the boom sticking out over the trees. And that's whenever both Lily and Noah they sat up and they were like, I'm sorry, what? I was like, yeah. I told you. It's big, right? and we've come around, and I mean, it's still cool. It's still so cool to see this giant orange shovel sitting out there in the middle of nowhere with a giant trench, now lake, in front of it with nice 90-degree bends.
It does.
And I don't know if you remember this, but when we would go out there, I remember, going out and seeing everything. I'm telling Megan about this, and it's been it's been 20 years ish since I've been out there. And I said, oh, well, the lady will be able to tell us what XYZ is. And Megan said, Collin, it's been over 20 years since you've been here. The lady doesn't work there anymore. And I was like,
does.
And then
Don't
I said,
worry.
oh, I bet she does. And we walk in, and she is still there.
There you go.
She is still there. It is still wonderful. I didn't say, I remember you from 20 years ago, but I was just like,
but I was thinking it.
I was totally. And what is neat about this, and I thought about this later, actually on the way back, of this museum and what this whole thing is I don't even understand how to put this, but like you go from inside the museum where they have little tiny scale models of this thing to like that you could hold in your hand. And then the massive things. So it's just a whole like weird play on scale and realism, and how the shovel, if you look at what I also love about this is that they have that little yard with older shovels, and how technically there's nothing different from the really, really tiny ones, like structurally and like how things are positioned. Papers is just a giant version of everything in every way.
It's like mega scaled up. Like
they just dragged out, they just clicked on the image and drug it and made it way bigger. Like they kept scanning over and over. That's all they did. It looks like a toy. Like it's so the proportions are just giant, and like the I forget what they're called, the bearings that allow it to turn and pivot.
Oh, like, yeah.
They're huge. They're huge. They're like they're comically large. And then you go over to one of the smaller, like one of the much smaller ones, and there's these little tiny things. And I'm like, it's just the same. Like it's just the same. But I know that it's a technological marvel that this thing even exists and how it functions. And oh yeah, by the way, it ran on 3 guys. That's it. Like that was
is kind of crazy for the size of that thing.
Yeah. And what was so funny is, first off, I'm still terrified of heights. This thing still scares me. I was clinging to the edges the entire time as I'm going up on the little wire, like lattice things. And of course, the kids are just like, they're running up, and I'm like, I'll be and it didn't hit them how large this thing was until they actually came up into the main house, and they realized like, oh, the ceiling keeps going. Like it's like this vast cavern that's echoey, and it's all around, like all that space in there where the motors or the motors used to sit. And then we go over into the captain's area, the driver's seat, and
which is kind of comically small compared to the rest of
A, comically small. B, how did they make this thing function? There's like 7 buttons, and that's it, right? Like we drove in a combine at harvest time last fall, and that thing was wired to within an inch of its life. There were 17 screens all around. There were constant sensors and monitors and stuff, and that was in a combine. And this thing is like,
it's not like it's going to be speeding anywhere, right? The move's like walking pace. Like it's not like 1 mile an hour, maybe. Like it's not.
And I
that's
know
like
that
full mode.
It's just, if this thing, I know modern shovels, like there would be so many doobobs and wizards and monitoring screens and lights and sensors all over this thing. And it's like, yeah, there was just one guy working the shovel. There was the oiler who was in charge of running around and greasing moving things. That was his only job. That's all he did all day, was just run around and grease things that move.
There's a lot of
right. Very important job. And then the groundman, like the guy that was on the ground, making sure he didn't hit things, I guess. It's just so much fun. And of course the kids came around and they got to stand in the shovel, right? Everybody's favorite.
Of course.
Stand in this massive shovel. And then they're standing next to the treads, and they're, it's so funny because, well, it's like they have no concept for like what normal shovels are, and so this is the first thing we see. Because also there was snow all over the place, so walking from place to place was a bit difficult. So we saw Big Brutus, we did all that, and then we were able to go over and kind of make a little path to see the smaller shovel. And then that's whenever they started to really like put 2 and 2 together with like, oh, this is ridiculous. This is insane. Had a lot of fun there. Great museum. A lot of cool information. We didn't stay and watch the video. I was like, well, we were gonna go hike, but then so anyway, go see Big Brutus. Wonderful people. They still have get-togethers from this thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They still have the crew. Some of the original crew that were on this still get together every year for a catfish fry that they catch from the lake.
Right in front.
Yes.
Nice.
Yep. But they came together to form Big Brutus Inc. So it's actually a corporation that manages it as the museum. And so they make those decisions and are the oversight and upkeep and maintenance. And
that's cool.
Yeah, it's like all the original guys are still out there doing this, which is just neat. And then the museum being a much larger, it's not just about the museum of Big Brutus, it's about mining in Kansas in general.
Yeah, in general. Yeah.
So that was also really neat to walk back through and pay attention this time. And see. Sorry, earlier.
I mean, it's all right. You know, when you're young, it's harder to do that, right?
Much harder. Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So yeah, that was I liked it. It was good. So we saw Big Brutus, and then we were driving away, and we kept driving past those pit wildlife areas and all this stuff, and then we missed a turn, and on our right we saw that there was a little thing that said train museum, and I went, I don't know anything about a train museum. So,
I'm sorry, what?
Let's go.
What now?
Let's go. And we turned off. The roads were still like pretty much snowed over. And Megan's like, they're not going to be open, Collin. I was like, well, let's see. Sure enough.
Of course they will be. It's a train museum.
We're open. There was one guy shoveling like the narrowest of narrow paths from the snow-covered parking lot into the museum. And he kind of like stared at us for a little bit, I think going like, are they actually going to come in, or are they lost?
Yeah.
I popped the door open and I said, ahoy, is this where we find trains? And it was.
He was like, heck yeah, it is, brother. Let's go. Come on.
It's called the Heartlands Railroad Museum. It's free to get in.
Nice.
They'll take donations. But it's just about trains and train yards of East Kansas. They have like an OG steam engine there that's fully renoed that we got to go up and ring the bell on, and he showed us what all the things did. And he actually worked on the railroad. Now he's retired and he helps do this. He was our docent throughout the entire museum, showing us all this stuff. When he found that Noah has in-scale trains, he was showing us all the in-scale trains and these trains. And they have all these memorabilia from like basically, being just like the miners over at Big Brutus, train conductors, and that it was a very tight-knit, close-knit family to make these things run. And everybody knew everybody. And so this museum is actually mostly put together through people's personal belongings and collections of their own that they've come together and kind of put all together of like, this is, this guy was on the rail for, 40 years and I knew him. And after he passed away, he gave this stuff to the museum. And like, it's all like personal connections kind of thing. And so it's really cool to see what they have. And he's walking us through, showing us all this stuff. Apparently, before they had comms on the trains, they did a technique called pooping up an order. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay. Get ready. So,
all right.
So you are at a train depot.
Okay.
How do you get a message to the conductor of a train?
I don't have any idea.
Ready? You write it on a piece of paper and you tie it to a stick. And then you go out standing by the railroad and hold the stick out for the conductor to grab.
Oh.
And they made these into a big hoop so that the conductor, whoever, just had to stick out their arm and it would go on their arm and then you'd let it go. Later, they developed these to where it's a big, it's a 6-foot pole and then it's got a big Y at the end, a V, and they would string a piece of, they would tie the order to a string and they would attach it to the both ends of that Y. And so you would, instead of taking the whole hoop with you, you would just loop onto that string and then you could order it and toss the string out. Oh. And he said, this was fine when you had steam engines, early steam engines, but as they started getting, faster and faster,
that becomes
it gets real scary standing out there. And because he made a good point of like, what if one of the cables on the cars had come loose 10 miles out and nobody had caught it and it's sitting there back there flapping back and forth? Like, these guys who would out and hoop up orders would get injured by debris that the train was dragging, things that had come uncoupled could decapitate these guys standing out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was insane. So I was like, oh my gosh. So he walks us through. They've got like a dining car set up inside. And when the weather's nicer, they actually do the thing that you guys do with that one weird thing that goes from Missouri to Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
They have one of those things.
Oh, cool.
You can actually get train rides on this. And they've got it all set up there. They've got the cars and they've got the thing. So he's like, well, usually he goes, I'm sorry. He was like, apologies. I haven't shoveled out to get over there yet. I'm like, it's totally fine. Like, you guys have got like 11 inches of snow. We're fine. So we go out and we see the cool steam engine. And then he goes, oh, do you want to see the depot? And I was like, of course.
Yes.
And they have the original 18 something train depot out there. And
nice.
What happened is they had the depot. It was there. Then during World War One, what happened to it? The original one got moved like a farm over, and then they built up another one. And then when the train depot when they went under, right before World War One, somebody bought it and moved it into, like, he said if you stand on the porch of the current depot, you can see 3 places on 3 different farms where this had been moved before we brought it back. Basically,
oh my gosh.
Basically, it had been like a hay barn, and then it was converted into a chicken coop, and then it was converted into a storage shed.
Oh my god.
And they managed to track it down, bring it back over to its original spot, completely put it together, and it is the coolest and cutest little depot. And they've got all the bars are there, and they have it all put together, so it's just like it was, with some of the, like, they were able to figure out what the original paint colors were kind of in that motif.
Whoa.
And they've got like the coolest part about this was that this was the central hub for these things. And the guy, they have the what's it called? Where they would drop off all of the mail and everything. Not where the people were, but the passengers, but where all the stuff was. Where the train would stop, they would pick up the parcels and deliveries, and they'd put them on the train, and they'd get the whatever. And before this was 20 years ago, they talked to a guy who used to run the general store in this area that's called Corona. And he remembers as a young boy picking up firecrackers from that depot that he had ordered through a mail order catalog to sell. Yes. Yeah. Because so it's just there, right? And so we got to talk about the history of that, and he was able to say, like, if you were in charge of one of these, like, they had their own closed loop phone line. So it wasn't a public line. It was the phone line run by the rail company. And so you had to know how to operate that. And then they also used Morse code, like forever in this thing. So you had to be able to operate that. And then you had to have typewriters. And he was walking through like the day in the life of one of these depot managers.
Wow.
No, it's crazy. And then also they had these, I forget what they're called already, but like every 5 miles on the track, there were these little shacks right next to them. And every day, 8 guys were assigned to that shack. And they would get on, and they had these little rail inspector carts that you could carry, you'd lift up, and then you'd set it on, and it was a little powered by this little engine. And one car would, all 8 guys would pile on, and it would go 5 miles one way, and then the other shack, they'd go 5 miles the other way. And their whole job was just the repair and maintenance of the track that day. And then at night, they'd come back and they'd put them in the sheds. And it was every 5 miles.
Whoa.
They had this along these tracks. And that's how they were able to maintain them so well, and the upkeep and maintenance. And then they had the rail inspectors got in even smaller versions, and they were supposed to cover 10-mile territories. And so that was their job. 10 miles one way, 10 miles the next. They would come back. They would give their orders to the groups, the repair crews, and then they would go out and they would cover their 5-mile territories. And this was most people's, like, this was the dream job for young guys to have, because they paid well, and the rail companies would actually specifically target farm families that had like lots of kids, because it was like, oh, you've got 7 sons. Would you like one of them to work on the rail? And so like they had like a recruiting network and all this stuff to pull them. Yeah, it was. And then so he gave us that tour. We came back inside, and that's when he showed us the toy trains. And then we were passing by these pictures, and I look up and I notice that there's a green boxcar with 3 gold letters on it. And I turn to Noah and I say, Noah, you have that. It's the MKT line, the Missouri, Kansas, Texas line. And this guy's head swivels around, and he was like, how do you know about the MKT line? And I'm like,
oh, we're not a stranger to train museums.
Actually, we're not complete noobs, as I originally led with. And so I tell him about where we live. And he apparently, again, before my time, when the Katy Trail through Missouri, when they ripped out the tracks, this was a mecca moment for all of the rail enthusiasts and all of the old guys from the rail to come. And they would actually
take pieces and stuff, right?
Take pieces, document. They actually would follow the crews as they went to tell stories of places of their memories on this line, right? Many of them had memories of this or had connections to this, like their dads. This is what they did.
Yeah.
And so he came up with one of those crews out to Columbia for that stretch when they were taking that out and putting that in, because he wanted to, because it's a big thing, because it's the only tunnel on the whole line or whatever. It's out that way. So they wanted to go document that process and things like that. And so he was like really like, oh, you live where? Oh my gosh.
Like, oh, you're from Central Missouri. Let's go.
Yes. So we had the M and the K were there and present. Technically, my kids were born in Texas, so like it was all the trifecta was there.
Perfect. Look at that.
Yeah. So, so that was, in some ways, it had more meaning, I'm going to say that, than Big Brutus. It's not as of an impressive museum, but they're a big showpiece of the steam engine, and they have a couple different things like that out there. It's not as like, wow, that's huge or whatever. Big Brutus is a massive technological marvel, and it's a testament to the just kind of can-do attitude and like we'll just do it kind of thing out there, and the big impact to many families and everything. That history speaks to that. and then just right down the road, you have a complete tangential industry, and their museum there. But getting to talk with that guy, I think I was just personally more impacted based off of like his stories and his connection to like everything that was in there. And it was just a really neat whirlwind tour through a very niche part of history for a very small part of the world. But it was really neat to experience that.
Well, that plus you're already like, partly living that train life with the model railroad and the other trains nearby, stuff like that. So like, it's just a little bit more personal experience because like it's already a thing that like you would like know specifically, but like other like all of you really are like like more familiar with, right? More familiar with, not necessarily strip mineral mining in eastern Kansas, right? That's not that's a little more niche than like railroad history.
Yes, that's a good point. It's a good point. So so I recommend West Mineral, and then just down the road is Corona, Kansas. And yeah, I think it was a bit more impactful for Noah too, because it is so close to his little heart there, and kind of where his interests lie.
Yeah.
Not that he wasn't impressed by the massive steam shovel, and Lillian was.
I saw his face in that picture. I know he was.
I know, again, Lillian kept on being like, how, it was how did they do this or how did they do that? Like, well, it's
good question.
Good question. Little by little, and sometimes very slowly, and
mostly just very slowly.
Very slowly.
That's the real trick. Is mostly just very slowly.
Turns out if you go slow, like so. So that was our trip. Then we stayed overnight in good old Joplin, and then came home.
Nice
for our fun times. But yes, we after we'd done the train museum, we still had time in our day, so we were like, oh, let's just go walk around the preserves out there. These are not hiking preserves, as we learned. These are hunting and fishing only. There are no like blazed trails at all. It's just kind of like a wilderness area. So we were like, oh,
yeah, well, maybe don't go wandering around the hunting area. Maybe that's not a great plan.
Yeah, Megan was like, do you have your dog walking vest? Because we have those orange vests now. And I was like, they're in our other car. And she was like, no. Well,
forgot the high visibility jacket. How could you?
I didn't know I'd be out in a hunting area. So we packed it up and went home after our big grand adventure. So the boot hill will wait for another day.
As we quite grand though, I gotta say.
It was quite grand. It was quite like boom. Pretty monumental to go out there and see that, and like, wow, a lot has not changed, and but they're not going to move the steam shovel. Apparently they had to fight pretty hard for them not to dismantle it and tear it down.
I do remember that. Right, that was a big thing because they just the cost of like just having it there was good, just like it existing, which was something that I always found like weird because like there's in that museum there's that thing about that other shovel, right? And I don't remember where it is exactly, but there is another shovel that is actually bigger than that one. And they just like the cost of like just leaving it somewhere was going to be too much, so they just buried it.
Yeah.
Basically, the thing dug a giant. It literally like it's kind of sad in a Toy Story kind of way, where like it like dug its own hole and then drove down in there, and then that's where they covered it back up, which is kind of weird, right? Especially when you realize it's bigger than Big Brutus, right? Which means it's humongous.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they just drove it into a hole and buried it there and left it because that was cheaper than like dismantling it or just leaving it somewhere, which is wild, right? And also probably an environmental hazard. Really, now that I'm thinking about this out loud, is awful. Also, a horrible idea.
Well, but it was electric, and like Big Brutus, I'm sure they removed the motors and they.
I bet not, because it had to drive down in the hole.
Well, but then they had to take it out, and that's the other thing that I keep.
I think that back, just remember, do giant corporations do good things like on purpose all the time? No.
On
Answer is no. Especially in like the 70s.
70s.
Right? Especially in the 70s when it's like, we're just right. Remember, this is the same time period where a different company not so far away in Missouri was spreading dioxin on roads just for fun, right? So like
and other mining companies in Missouri were selling their chaff for use in asphalt in roofs.
Yes.
It comes to find out that there's a bit problem with that. Yeah.
Yeah, you see. Gee.
Yeah.
Not a great time for environmental protection in the 1970s.
Yeah, low point. But well, the other thing too of like the how things was constructed, I had never really read a lot of the things when I was there when I was 14. It's not surprising. But the other thing that I also learned was it operated 24/7.
Yeah. It was all the time.
For 11 years.
Yeah.
It had downtime for, maintenance
and stuff, but they just rotate the crews in.
Yeah.
Right. And just keep, it's not like it's going very far and you can't just hop on.
And that's why that elevator in the middle is so important, because that allowed them to do real-time transfers of crew.
Yeah.
Where it could be moving and they would just come walking underneath it, step onto the platform. The thing is moving and then just ride the elevator up.
Not very fast.
Not very fast. It's fine. But that's the other thing that I still to this day,
a third of a mile an hour.
Have such a hard time comprehending that this thing was, we skim right over it like it's an everyday thing, an electric shovel. It had its own substation.
It was plugged in directly.
Plugged in. It had 3,000 feet of cable that it drug behind it. Like
that cable's huge.
It's
like 6 inches across.
There's so much copper in this thing, and
it's enormous.
It was electric. That's the part that I continue to as you're standing on this thing and you're marveling, and you're like, holy cow, this whole thing. What? And that's
and think about those the size of those electric motors that were in that room, because there's like multiple, I can't remember how many slots there are, but there's huge slots for these giant electric motors. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I just still to this day, that's what is so insane about these, is that these things existed and the other thing that I still want to see as well, as far as these weird shovels, are Big Brutus is one that has got the tracks, right? It goes, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the walking ones in person, because that.
Oh yeah.
I don't believe are actually real.
This is just one of those steampunk things. It's not a real.
I think because they have a model of one of these in the museum, because they were in the area, right? And it just what it looks like. It looks like a high-centered duck, with its little feet, going because it would land on its belly so it could turn and rotate and stuff. But then these giant paddle feet are walking. I'm like, how did we decide that was an effect?
That is the real question. Who decided, this is a good plan, right? That's the part that's kind of bizarre to me. It's how did they come up with that, and then do it and be yep, nope, that's it, that's what we're going with. Wait, hold on, there's other, why this weird thing?
Yeah, it's still it's insane. And And I know that, again, coal mining and stuff is just bizarre, but it's you look at the modern things that are out there. If you look at modern coal shovels, and then like you squint back over and you look at the Big Brutus, you're like, okay, well, obviously there hasn't been a whole lot. I mean, obviously lots of technological advancements and stuff like that, but like still there. All the core elements are still there.
Yeah,
70 years on from when this thing was originally designed.
There's only so many ways to shovel.
I know. Well, that was the other thing. That they had a picture of what Big Brutus replaced, and Big Brutus replaced a shovel in 1964 that had been designed. The previous one was the previous largest shovel, and then Big Brutus replaced it. But like, it was built back in the 40s, and I'm like,
yeah, and it looks markedly. If I remember correctly, it looks markedly similar to
very similar.
Just like not like there's a few differences, I think, but like, yeah, it's pretty much the same design. It's like the same style shovel.
Yes,
right.
Yeah. It's like,
with the. I mean, there's only a couple ways to engineer the beam, right?
Yes.
So like for this kind of thing, and so the Brutus shovel has the front face open, and it like scoops away. Yes.
Yep.
And then the bottom. Then they
out.
pivot it, and then they dump the bottom out. Right, the bottom of the bucket disengages, where it's not like a backhoe where it scrapes towards it. It like
drag line, sir.
Yeah,
it's a drag line. Cool.
Yeah, and so it like just drags along, and then they pick it up. Right, so that's different. Yeah, so that part's kind of weird, but like other than that, there's not just too many ways to do that.
No,
they just drag it. And then it just like breaks it up. And then that's kind of it, right? Like,
yeah, it's wild. And especially when you think of the other thing of now that you see how large this thing is, then you really get a sense for how eerie the lakes are around it, because this thing would shovel above, like, it could lift how high was boom was 105 feet up, and then you look at these little lakes.
The shovel didn't go all the way.
The shovel didn't go up that far, but like there are some pictures of this thing down in these pits where it was shoveling.
Yeah,
and you go, oh, it's real deep and creepy down there. Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand now. I'm very uncomfortable. So anyway, it's good. It's fun. I enjoyed it, and the kids did too. So yeah. Well, I have a video I want to watch with them. That kind of, you can see it's more of a historical like a little bit of a documentary stuff. So anyway,
that beam thing is weird. I was looking at the pictures on here, and it does that weird thing where it like, because the drag line, there's that center like piston thing almost, and it like pushes the shovel outwards. So it's weird. It's a very there's like 12,000 like cables, because the whole mast is like the pulley pivot thing, and then the shovel is actually not attached directly to the mast. It's like halfway down there's that like beam thing, right? And that, so like the way that it works is just bizarre. It's very strange. but yeah, so there you go. Kablam.
Yeah, so that was fun. We had a great time. Recommend Big Brutus and I'm the glad. Heartland Museum for that. So yeah. Did you go see any giant electric shovels?
I did not. Mostly just like surviving the back to school shenanigans, right?
Or
like being able to finally leave my house after Snowpocalypse 2025 with the many inches of snow that I had outside that were drifting all over the place. So like I didn't even decide to, and it was so cold that I didn't even decide to go outside my house last week till like Friday. I was like, okay, now I'll shovel. Right now, I'll go shovel this mess off the thing because they didn't come by and do our road even like for a couple days. So like, well,
no,
even if we were going somewhere, this would be very difficult. So yeah, not gonna worry about it. Plus, Susan was sick, so like, where are we gonna go? Right?
Yeah, that's no
stayed up
yeah,
at home
that's
and
fun.
holed up here, and then finally went out and shoveled the driveway. So mostly just trying to get back to school, being like, what is happening? Where am I? What is going on? Like I don't. Trying to get back in the swing of things, trying to figure out what's up. So that's been mostly this week. It's just sort of like trying to navigate that and figure out where we are. What were we doing when we left? I don't remember.
Right.
Get the kids back in school mode, right? Because when they're gone for, I mean, we were out basically like 10 days. So like almost as long as we were for Christmas break.
Wow.
So
rough start to the that's hard.
Yeah, rough into the third quarter there, pretty much. So like we're a little like a little behind. So it'd be all right, but it's been weird this week, right? Just like what? Been very difficult. Lots of things to do, lots of things to catch up on. And so we really haven't done anything at all, really. So a lot less exciting in our neck of the woods. So I do have your last metal album of the week, however.
Oh, yes.
In case you were curious, right? This week, going into a slightly different metal subgenre. Oh boy. I knew you were ready for that. Right? Today, right, I give to you our final weeks, probably. Band, right? This is Black Boned Angel, right? They have an album called Verdun, right? And they this is their World War One album. Now, this is not like a World War One band like some of the other ones, but they do have this album that's World War One themed, I guess. Now, this band is very different, and then this is, I think, classified as like drone metal, right? So like, of course, the archetypal drone metal band is like Sun O, right? Obviously, I know you know that, right? Clearly,
I was just about to say that, actually. So thank you.
So it's just like super, like it's basically like, so drone metal is weird in that it's kind of like, it's literally the slowest music I think you could possibly listen to, right? It's basically like the what these bands do is they get like the loudest amplifiers they can get, and they just turn them up all the way, and then they drop their guitar tunings really low, and they add a bunch of reverb, and then they just like hit notes, and then just like hold them. They like sustain forever.
Oh no!
So it's kind of like wall of sound music, right? So it's kind of like there's not always like a time signature thing happening, right? It's very like out of time sometimes, and then it's just like long. So this album is just it's one song. It's like 50 minutes.
Oh, that sounds horrible,
right? And but it has like parts, right? Like there's sections, like this is like A part and like B. And I think they're going for like different things because there's one part in the middle that's like upsetting to listen to, even if it's just instrumental. Like the way that it's repeated and like the tone and like the notes they're choosing is kind of like discomforting, right? But that's on purpose because it's about Verdun, obviously. But like that is the intent, I guess. But that's what I listened to this week was Black Bone Angel, our friends from New Zealand. There we go. There we go.
Yes.
closing out the World War One metal album extravaganza, right? So you got playlists going, right? Okay.
Yeah, man, what a journey that was.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. Huh.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
man.
what I did this week.
Oh, was it lovely? Lovely.
Oh yeah.
Well, speaking of lovely things.
Oh yeah.
You want to close out a book?
Yeah.
Gotta be honest. Ooh.
Yeah.
We sure are building to something.
Oh boy. Yeah. Is
yeah, what? We book 5 now. And yeah, this yeah, I'll let you walk us through this one.
I once again did not mark the page that I need to start on, which you would think I would do this time because I didn't need to save my place for next time because we finished. But I, am an idiot sometimes and don't just do the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. Oh my gosh. Is this it? Is it? All right. Okay. So yeah. What is this? 38? Right? 38?
Yeah.
Quick calculations from Roman numeral here. So we are like well into the fall right now. And they're like living in a chalet in the mountains. Like
that's what I got. Because
they're like renting a room from some people. It's kind of what it feels like, right?
Yeah, it kind of felt like a bed and breakfast almost. Because Gettingham, got the Guttingens, they owned this place and they were very proud of it. They worked hard for this, and again, they're kind of renting them this room.
Yeah, so they're just up in the mountains, like hanging out, right? And but yeah, this chapter, like again, this chapter follows the plan of like, for a lot of it, like nothing's really happening, right? They're not like doing anything, but like there's a lot being said between the lines, right? That's kind of what's happening in a lot of this book anyway, is like there's a lot of stuff, but then like not really, right? And then because all of a sudden here he like goes into great detail, like talking about like just a bunch of stuff, right? They kind of describe them and where they are in the villages and a little bit, but then like nothing really happens until kind of towards the end when they start they start talking here, and like they start talking about this baby, right? And like we get that she's all into it, and he's like he calls her like the loafer, right?
Oh
and
yeah,
like, he's like whatever, like he's just not really excited. And then they start talking about shouldn't we have gotten married, and whatever, blah blah blah, like, and it's really weird that all this time their relationship really hasn't progressed at all.
There's
right.
There's nothing here.
And there's no like substance because they keep saying like they just talk about like, oh, don't I make you a lovely wife? He's like, yeah. And then they talk about like, oh, well, we should be married, and oh, I don't want to marry yet. I'm not in.
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to be married until I'm thin, and like blah blah blah. Like, what? Hold on. What?
Yeah, it's like again this vain nature, this very superficial, this again, avoiding reality, I guess, is another thing that's going on here too for both of them, is that there's just no rhyme or reason for any of this. It's just this feel of going through the motions.
Yeah.
And I think at this point they've also said that like they have nothing for the baby too.
Yes. Yeah, or somewhere around here they're like, oh yeah, we don't even have like baby clothes, right? Like, oh, we should probably do that, right?
Yeah,
Oh, we get that. Like,
uh,
they start talking about places they want to go in America, right? And this part is funny because she's like, I want to see Niagara Falls, and he's like, yeah, where else? And she can't remember, and he just starts naming off. So he's like, the stockyards? No.
right, just random place.
The Woolworth building? No.
Right, the Golden Gate, right? San Francisco.
Like, oh yeah, the Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah, that's it. Like, wow, good thing you want to see two things that are real close together.
Yeah,
Niagara Falls and the Golden Gate Bridge. Oh dear.
yeah.
So they,
oh my gosh. So
this whole chapter is just so weird. Like, again, we just have no, like, this whole relationship is just like escapism for, I think, both of them, right? But like, it's just, these are like high school relationship conversation, right? That we're having here still the whole time. And it's really awkward to keep reading them.
It is, because it's like, oh, I want to ski. Well, I can do bobsled, but it won't be too rough. Oh, but I'm hungry. Oh, let's go get something to eat. Like, it's very. I will also say this: it is very in the moment. That's all. Like,
that's true.
They do every now and then venture out to like, oh, there's this inevitable big thing that's going to happen. Like, yeah, oh, yeah, baby. But also like now, and I'm hungry now, and I'm going to be impulsive now and react now and just be lovely now is what a lot of this is, without any real eye towards future or anything like that.
Yeah, the closest we get to future in some of these is she says, I think you should grow a beard. And he's like, what? What?
Yeah,
right. And again, this is the part where I really was comparing it to like high school relationships, when one person in the relationship is like, oh, you should change your hair. Like, I think your hair would look good this way. And the other person's like, what? Why? Yeah. And like, or this right here, she's like, you should grow a beard, or you shouldn't get your hair cut yet. They start talking about like, oh, we'll wait together, and then we'll let our hair grow out so we'll look the same, and then we can go get it cut at the same time. Like, what are you talking about? What is that? Like, what?
I don't, it's such a weird thing to think about or talk about, right? And also, yeah, as he's talking about the beard too, he says, I'll start now this minute. It's a good idea. It will give me something to do. Are you worried because you haven't anything to do? No, I like it. I have a fine life, don't you? I have a lovely life, but I was afraid because I'm big now that I was to bore you. Like, there's no real purpose or meaning to them,
and just either. A lot of insecurity, right? Like,
tons
on both parties, but a lot of her. Like,
yeah, was it this chapter or next one where we find out basically they're just living off his family sending him money?
I think that's the next one.
One, okay.
But like, anyway, that doesn't matter. Like, and they've because they don't, like, he's not getting paid anymore because he's run away, and so is she, really. And so he, like, even though their family doesn't, like, he doesn't like them, or he doesn't talk to them, or he doesn't write them, he like basically sent them a money request and they like said yes. So like, like, he just Western union them like a request for money, and they honored it or whatever. And so he's like, yeah, we're fine, we're good to go.
Yeah. Oh, because at this time too, again, in this whole with the beard of like, oh, I have a fine life. Like, she asks him, hold on. Yeah, he says, but I thought maybe you were restless. And he says, no, sometimes I wonder about the front and about people. I don't know, but I don't worry. I don't think about much of anything. What do you wonder about? About Rinaldi and the priest and lots of people I know. So again, he goes from saying, I don't worry about anything. There's nothing here to actually lots of people I know. I'm consumed about
except
them.
for literally everyone else I know. Right. Everybody he's known for 5 years. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
and then everybody he says, I don't think about them much. I don't think about the war. I'm through with it. Well, what are you thinking about? Nothing. Yes, you were. Tell me. Well, I was wondering about Rinaldi, right?
Yeah.
No, like you're actually all consumed about this.
Yeah. And I think we get more of that just a little bit like on the very end of this chapter, right? Because if we think about all the way back to episode 1, we're talking about Hemingway's iceberg theory, right? Where he just like he'll show you just a little bit and he kind of wants you to fill in the rest.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because the last part
thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, all right. Then she says, all right, then let's go to sleep at exactly the same moment.
Again,
all right.
Middle school relationship.
Yeah. Right. It's like when you're like kids now, or like even when I was in school, like you talk on the phone to go to sleep. Right. They do that. Like kids now, like the middle schoolers, they'll like FaceTime each other and then like FaceTime each other to bed. Right.
Yes.
The person they're quote dating. Right. It's like that.
You fall asleep.
Yeah. It's like that. Right.
Yeah.
Tale as old as time. This is the thing.
Yeah.
This used to be done on the phone call. Right. But it says, all right, then let's go to sleep at exactly the same moment. All right. But we did not. I was awake for quite a long time thinking about things and watching Catherine sleeping, the moonlight on her face. Then I went to sleep too. Right. And that last sentence is even interesting, right? Because it's written as then I went to sleep, comma, too. Right. So that's even like, it's like the way that he's drawing it out. Like, then I went to sleep. Also. Right. Like, just kind of the pausing and the waiting and we know that he doesn't like the nighttime. He doesn't like going to sleep at night. He doesn't like that being alone with himself. Like, that's what we really know from all of his behavior and all his activity. Like, he does not like being alone with himself.
Yep.
Right. This is the thing. This is why he's always drinking, right? Because it's a distraction, really. Right. And so this nighttime of always this trepidation of going to sleep and struggling to go to sleep and being afraid to go to sleep, right? This is all that trauma manifestation, like not being able to deal with it and then like trying to put on a brave face and just like power through, it's really taking a toll on him, and it's really not, he's not handling anything well at all.
No, because again, it is all escapism. The entire reasons for their relationship is escapism for both of them, as we know, right? She's escapism from the man that she was in love with and would have married. And he's in a escapism for the fear of being alone. So both of them are finding that fear of being alone here. And this is why, in the previous early chapters, they were alone together and perfectly fine with it because they were there for different purposes than there for the other person.
Yeah.
When he said that they could be together and alone and were fine with it, meaning they both knew they were using each other. They both knew that this was just because it was convenient and it made them feel good in the moment. And he's also terrified to be asleep without somebody next to him.
Yeah.
That we see that here, even now, like as we're rapidly approaching this something, it's just, there's no progression.
No, not at all. Right. And it's really nuts, right? Like it's really, and then, so we get that the next chapter, basically this is the chapter. It's like 2 pages. This chapter is where they just talk about where the money comes from. Right.
Yes.
That's basically all that happens here.
Yep.
They're still, just
they're
doing
like
nothing and
wandering around to different like taverns in the cold and drinking and going back. And
Yeah,
that's right.
They're just like, oh,
he's got a beard now, right?
He's got a beard now because now it's the middle of January. So we've just fast forwarded, right?
Yep.
So we like nothing's happening. They're just waiting for this inevitability to happen, and like, yeah, they're just walking around. She says, "Don't we have any money?" He's like, "Yeah, I, you know, wrote my family a plea for money, and they said yes." So like, that was he didn't like communicate with them or tell them anything. He just said, basically, "Can I have some money?" And they're like, "Yeah." Like that was it.
Yeah. Well, and then she says, "Haven't you written them?" No, only the site draft. Thank God I'm not your family. And I was like,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. He said, I'll send them a cable. And she said, don't you care anything about them? I did, but we quarreled so much it wore itself out. I think I'd like them. I'd like them very much. And then he said, let's not talk about them, or I'll start to worry about them. And
on brand, I guess. That's good.
Very, yeah. Suppressed and uncommunicated worries and concerns and anxieties. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, shocking. Who could have seen that? Wait.
More of unaddressed trauma and family relationships. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then they compliment him on the beard and what is this? Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, at the end it was this hold on. We have oh. This ends weird.
It does end weird, right? I was just looking at that. I was just trying to remember.
I highlighted this. I'm going to this I don't understand. I don't like there's a lot of context here and a lot of things here. They're talking about how lovely you are, how sweet you are. I love you now. And he says, what do you want to do? Ruin me? Yes, I want to ruin you. It's good. That's what I want to.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this was like in a passionate kind of thing or in a like self-destruct kind of thing or like maybe a recognition both. Of
like I don't
yeah, maybe yes and like here's the yes and thing. Yeah.
It's real weird. Like here's a good point to bring this up. Side note, Susan was also reading, I think, like The Paris Wife, right? And this is about Hemingway's time with his first wife in Paris.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And her big takeaway from this book was like, these people are awful.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, look. Right. This is the woman that like basically he told her that like Kat that she was the basis for this character. Right. Wow. What a great thing to tell somebody.
Yeah.
Right. This is the lady that he met and that he ran off to lived in Paris with after the war. Right. And she's just like, so she was reading about like the real life counterpart to this, like if this story didn't end the way that it does, spoilers, what Hemingway actually did with go off with this lady and live in Paris with all these crazy people. She said he's awful, like all his friends are awful, like all they do is drink and do rotten things. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much the book. That's pretty much exactly what we're getting here.
Wow. Well,
that's pretty. That's right.
Yes. Yes. Here we are.
Just this like weird, empty, vapid nature. I just wanted to bring up that this is like that part is based on reality. Like,
and it comes
of just
tearing through in this.
Yeah.
In this here because you guys just you know what, let's just destroy like each other and what's going on and to do it like again knowingly of there's just no again I just oh my gosh you see this it's fun move on to 40
something anyway
start off we had a fine life.
Oh yes, the way that they bring that up so frequently kind of tells you that it's like Who are you trying to convince? Me or you?
You, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you keep telling me this. Right. You keep telling me the reader this, but like I don't think I believe you.
Nope.
Like as a matter of fact, I don't believe you. Like
Not
even
at
a little
all.
bit. But like it
Yeah, because then he says, we had a fine life. We lived through the months of January and February. Right?
yeah.
It's
What
not
a
as
great,
what a
fun and exciting
wow.
way
I
to put
continued
that,
to
right?
breathe for 2 months. Like this is, oh, geez.
I mean,
Yeah,
breathing is my favorite hobby, right? I
yeah.
would say
But
it's important, but like,
they were very happy, very
yes,
happy.
right.
And then we get
But
to
they decide they need to move
well,
into town closer to a hospital
well.
because they're just up in this chalet thing, right?
That's because
it's
in the night it started raining.
yes, dun dun dun.
But yes, they decide
foreshadowing. That's what
they decide that yes, they need to not be up here so with the baby coming so soon.
yes, which is quite possibly the only responsible thing that they've said the whole time. But
yes,
I think this is the chapter where they're like, "Oh, we don't have any."
it was this one
where they're like, "Oh, we should probably get some stuff for the baby," right? Like they're kind of like they're just kind of ignoring it the whole time, right? Like, really,
yeah,
like, meh. But yeah, you know what I have to get, darling? She said, "What? Baby clothes?" He's like, "What? Well, yeah. Well, I guess you can buy them later. Like, it's fine. Like, what?"
yep.
But I did the humorous part about this exchange was it's like, you can buy them. I know. That's what I'll do tomorrow. I'll find out what is necessary. But you ought to know you were a nurse. Yes, but so few soldiers had babies in the hospitals.
And he said, I did. Okay.
She hit me with a pillow.
Okay. That was very funny. We also have our first timestamp, I think, of the book, of it being 1918.
Yeah, March 1918. Right. So, bang. It's the first time a date has actually been mentioned. Right. Everything else has been like, you have to figure it out, right? Like, by what's going on. But this is, boom, we have a date. Kablam.
Yep. And they're unpacking in a nice hotel, drinking with whiskey and soda.
Surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. And this, again, we get some more really weird, stilted dialogue between the two.
Yeah.
Of being thin again, drinking this. Again, the whole like thin again. I think that's just it could be a discussion of obviously this vapid and vain thoughts of looks and whatever, but also just she's not saying once I have the baby, is she? She's not saying right. It's a once I'm thin, we'll be fine.
Like it's not. She doesn't mention once I've had the child. Like right? She doesn't bring that up. Like
and how do you go about becoming thin again? Like let's talk about that middle point of you are pregnant, do you have baby, then you become not pregnant. Like there's something that's going to happen here, and it's not even. It's so weird. Like I was struck by that. The more she kept bringing it up of like when I get thin again, when I get thin again, when I get thin again. I you're not saying after I have the baby. So again, this disconnect of what's actually taking place too.
Yeah. Right. And that this whole chapter like is again, he does it again. Right? This whole chapter is basically just like summed up with the last line again. Right? Like when, he says, when there was a good day, we had a splendid time and we never had a bad time. We knew the baby was close now, and it gave us both a feeling as though something were hurrying us and we could not lose any time together.
Yep.
Oh no.
And we get hurled into 41.
Yeah. The longest chapter in the whole book.
Yep.
right? It is huge.
This was a lot to go through, not just because of the length, but obviously the content that we're going to get into.
Like emotionally, right?
Emotionally, this book, I actually put the book down at one point during this and like had to like go wander away.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to read it in parts, right? Like I didn't read it the whole way through because like good.
Yeah. Because she starts having pains one morning. One morning she has pains.
Yeah. So they do the thing, they get all the stuff and they get the carriage or whatever and they head out to the
but wait. Foreshadowing into how things are not going to go well. They have trouble getting the garage.
Yeah.
Right?
The elevator isn't working right.
The elevator isn't working. The garage isn't working. Like it's delayed in getting there. Like it's just this weird, like the hiccups are coming.
Yeah. So we get there. They get her in a gown. They get her in the room, right? And the nurse goes in, and
she gave her name as Catherine Henry.
Yes, of course, obviously. So he goes out in the hallway and sits and waits while the nurse like checks on her and all this stuff, right?
That was the other part about this whole process too, of remembering childbirth in 1918. Okay, 1918. What are social norms? What are expectations? Like that's the other part that I was trying to grapple with through this entire book, or through this entire chapter of like, okay, like this is also weird. This is gonna be weird.
Yeah, it is. Because
he says, like, where's the doctor? I asked the woman. Oh, he's lying down sleeping. He'll be here when he's needed. It's like,
yeah,
wait a minute.
It's fine, right? It's all right. So basically, she's like, "Oh, I'm fine. You know, the nurse is going to be here, and blah blah blah. You should go eat breakfast, right? I want to have this child without any foolishness, and go get some breakfast, darling, and then come back. I won't miss you. The nurse is splendid to me."
Again, this isn't happening, right? She doesn't want like this isn't real. Like she's still like, no, you go away. I'll be fine. We'll get through this on the other side, and then everything will be back to normal. And what is interesting is before this point where she starts saying, "Leave," he said, just a little bit before, I went out of the hall. It was a bare hall with 2 windows and closed doors all down the corridor. It smelled of hospital. I sat on the chair, looked at the floor, and prayed for Catherine. And then, come on in. And then we'll come here. Oh, no, you leave. Right now, go to... These are always protracted. First labors are always protracted. Don't worry about it. Go get something to eat. And he... Is that... Yeah. Then come back. I won't miss you. Yeah, nurse is splendid to me. And then you have plenty of time. Goodbye. Right? And he leaves and goes to a cafe while his wife is starting in labor. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's not a very good cafe thing either.
No, the cafe's not great.
Wine and yesterday's brioche.
Yeah. That's what I always wanted. Like, I mean, he probably doesn't mind that for breakfast, but I think I'll pass.
Now, what is the thing with the dog?
I don't know. It's weird. Like
this was this. We didn't even know other animals existed in this world. Really, except for some horses, I think. And now, so what do you? A dog was nosing at the cans. What do you want? I asked and looked at the can to see if there was anything I could pull out for him. There was nothing.
Coffee grounds, dust, and some dead flowers.
Yes,
there wasn't anything. Dog, I said. The dog crossed the street. I went to the stairs to the hospital to the floor. And Catherine was on, and down the hall to her room. Like. What?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if this is like, again, this is a symbol of like emptiness and like not getting what you want because like the dog goes away unsatisfied, right? I don't know if this is an omen, right? I don't know if this is like the black dog thing, right? You know, like, meh. But like, yeah, it's very. This is weird, right? Like,
this is really weird. I was trying because he doesn't speak too much in overtly heavy allegory. Usually, I'll say,
Yeah.
But I was trying to figure out like what is he pulling here, and why is this here? Because he writes in such an economical way that there's not usually not usually time for this kind of thing, for him to now merely have a weird conversation with the dog.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Or maybe the dog is just a distraction.
Yeah.
Right. Like he wants to talk to anybody except the doctor and the nurse.
Yeah.
Right.
He's delaying. It could be him
delaying going back to the hospital.
Yeah. Right. And facing.
That could just be what it is too. Like he's just delaying going back. This is a diversion, right? Because he's eating breakfast. He's took a long time eating breakfast, and he's drank several wines for breakfast. Now he's going back to the hospital. He just doesn't want to face what's going on back there. And yeah, maybe this is just a distraction. Another reason to not go back yet, right? To stop and talk to this dog.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and then again, he comes in. Yeah, there was no answer. I opened the door. The room was empty except for Catherine's bag on a chair and her dressing gown hanging on a hook in the wall. She's gone. She's not there. Went in the hall. Found a nurse. Yeah. And now, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just moving my microphone closer.
No, okay. And now she's in the labor room, right? And with a mask on the tube, and
this part's weird.
Oh my gosh! Here she starts saying, that was a big one. That was a very big one. And she starts getting fed the nitrous oxide or whatever it is.
I'm assuming that's what it is. She just has gas, but I'm assuming that's what it is, right?
I'm pretty sure it's nitrous. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what else it would be. I mean, it could be this is 1918, so it could just be like heroin. I don't know, but chloroform. Could be chloroform, right? Who knows?
Well, because it does make her pass out later, right?
Yeah, it does.
I think. And here again, here's this. Oh gosh, I hate this. I hate this so much. I hate this. Here's this other imagery of the doctor's like, hey, mind if I take a break? And he lets Frederick take over the gas.
Yeah.
And he's literally like, he's the one doing this to her. Right.
Yeah.
And it's this mutual self-destruction, this mutual ruin that's taking place here. Like this is bizarre, especially what this turns into later. But like, she's like, go eat lunch. Right. Do you think I'll ever have this baby? She asked. Yes, of course you will. I try as hard as I can. I push down, but it goes away. There it comes. Give it to me. And then he leaves for lunch at 2.
Yeah. So he goes back out. It has some more. Again, this weird cafe. It's like we don't have anything. Again, it's like weird times too. I guess so. Like, we don't have anything. So he just eats like the leftover stuff the chef has. I don't know. And he sort of like walks around a little bit, right? He goes back, blah, blah. And yeah, it's weird. Yeah. He goes back in there and he just goes back, right? Trudges back upstairs, right? And he finds the doctor was by Catherine this time. The nurse was over in the other room. And now it's been going on for quite a long time, and this is where we start going bad, right? This is no good. Right? She's kind of freaking out now because this is taking so long, right? And she's talking about like, oh, I won't die, darling. And he's like, oh yeah, of course not. Blah blah. The doctor's like, no, you'll be fine. Yeah, you'll be fine. So they examine her some more, and he goes out, and this is this the part that's he's like the reality of the situation is like hitting him, and he is not prepared to deal with even more problems, right?
Because
Yeah.
he's really this repetitive nature, because the doctor told him to go sit out for a little bit, and that he's like, he probably wanted me away for a while. I looked at my watch. If he did not send for me in 10 minutes, I would go down anyway. Poor dear cat. And this was the price you paid, right? This was the end. Oh, this was the end of the trap. This was what people got for loving each other. Thank God for gas anyway. What must it have been like there before anesthetic? And this is a big viral. That's what, right? She's not won't die. He plays back and forth where he says he starts with like, she won't die. She can't die. Right? She probably she can't. No, she can't. She can't.
Yeah.
And that's when he starts flipping before she won't and she can't. You realize there's this is where that
This is rough, right? It starts going real bad. He goes back to the doctor and he's like, all right, we're gonna operate, right? We got two choices. We're gonna do this, right? And we can do the C-section or the, what's he call it? The high forceps delivery.
Sounds real bad.
That does sound awful. And he's like, what should we do? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, can we do that? And he was like, no, I would go to the C-section. He's like, what if we don't do anything? He's like, that's a bad idea. He's like, all right, go. He's like, so what do you think? He's like, I would advise the C-section. If it were my wife, that's what I'd do. He's like, all right, boom. Right. He's like, what about infection? He's like, not as great as the other one. He's like, okay, fair, do it. So, he makes the decision. He goes in the room to tell Catherine about this, and this is the other part. Now the gas isn't working anymore.
Well, wait, real quick, before we get this in, he says where I had left. He says, wait a minute, where is this? I was hungry. Cafe. Oh, sorry, never mind. No, you're fine. Go ahead. I just remembered that earlier part where he says he went back in to get her before all this, and he said, I looked in the glass and saw myself looking like a fake doctor with a beard.
Oh yeah, that's when he came back in. Yeah,
sorry. I just saw that, but yes, it's not working at all now.
Yeah, and then she's in a lot of pain, and he's trying to help her, and he like
this is
gooses it up a little bit, right?
I was afraid of the numbers above 2.
Yes,
but he
did it anyway because she was
telling him to.
Yeah, and she was in so much pain, so
she came back from a long way away.
Yeah,
that was lovely, darling. Oh, you're so good to me.
Yeah.
Right, you be brave because I can't do that all the time. It might kill you. I'm not brave anymore, darling. I'm all broken. They've broken me. I know it.
Yeah.
Yep. And now they're just kind of needing to wait till the operation.
Yeah. This is the other part that's like it. I read it and then I had to like record scratch and read it again because I realized what's happening is she's going to have her operation in an operating theater.
Yes.
And other nurses are like, ooh, they're having a C-section. Let's come watch. And they're like, run down there because they want to see it. And like, they're like, you can go in there. And he's like, no, I'm not watching. No. Right. So it's like, everybody is like, these other nurses are running along to go in there. And he's like, I'm going to stay outside. I can't watch this. Right. Which fair. But like, that's a weird juxtaposition where to him, this is like a super crazy, like scary time. And they're like excited about it. Like, woohoo, let's go. And he's like, oh,
yeah. And as they're rushing off, this is where she says, I don't want to die and leave you, but I get so tired of it. And I feel I'm going to die. Nonsense. Everybody feels that. Sometimes I know I'm going to die. You won't. You can't. But what if I should? I won't let you. Give it to me quick. Give it to me now. Get back to the gas, right?
Yeah.
Like, I won't die. I won't let myself die. Of course you won't. You'll stay with me, not to watch, right? But just to be there. Sure. I'll be there all the time.
Yeah. And then he stayed outside.
Stay outside. Yep. They wheeled the stretcher, walked. Yeah, they're like, yeah, let's go do cesarean. The other one laughed. We're just in time, aren't we lucky? Again, this the juxtaposition of the same story, right? Or same event, but how differently impacted it is to those around it, right? These medical students are like, oh, cool. A C-section, great. And yet we know like what this means for these two people. And like, it's
yeah. And so the baby is out, but then like they kind of, the doctor holds him up and then they kind of
he held something
him away. Yeah. Right. And then he like takes him back. Right. So he kind of holds him up and he says, oh yeah, he weighs this much. And then he kind of runs off with him. Right.
Well, like before this, he says, Frederick says, I had no feeling for him. He did not seem to have anything to do with me. I felt no feeling of fatherhood. And the nurse is like, aren't you proud? Like, aren't you like he's obviously acting weird because he's not being overjoyed, elated. And then he says, no, he nearly killed his mother.
Yeah. Yeah. He said, didn't you want a boy? No, I said. Right. So she's not doing well. He goes, right. He goes in there and
he's watching them sewing up the incision, right?
But then he walks down and he goes, like when they take him out, her back out, he goes to see her, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, hello, darling. And she's not looking great. And this part, okay, she says, hello, darling, she said. Her voice was very weak. Hello, you sweet. And her first question is, what sort of baby was it?
What sort of baby was it?
Which is a weird way to say that, right? And basically, without dragging this out just too much, he's like, oh yeah, he's a boy. He's like, is he all right? Yeah, he's fine. And the nurse like looks at it like,
yeah.
She gives this weird look. And they talk a little bit and she's like, she can't talk right now. She's got to rest. You should go get something to eat, right? So he's again, you got to go get something to eat. And he leaves the room and the nurse is like, yo, did nobody tell you? And he's like, what? The baby is dead.
Yeah.
Like, dang, like,
yep.
Right.
And she's like, oh, I thought you knew. He says,
it's like, no, I didn't.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. That was it. Right. That was why the doctor looked so tired. But why had they acted the way they did in the room with him? They supposed he would come around and start breathing, probably. It's like, I had no religion, but I knew he ought to have been baptized. But what if he had never breathed at all? He hadn't. He had never been alive, except in Catherine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was never, again, where he was in processing this of there wasn't any baby because there wasn't a baby for him to hold. Like it was all kind of just like none of this was real. He was dead all along because I never knew him. It wasn't there. And he said, I felt him kick there often enough, but I hadn't for a week.
Yeah. Maybe he'd been dead all along. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And he said, then he's like, this is the game, right? That's what you do. You die.
Died.
You did not know what it was about. You never had time to learn. They threw you in and told you the rules, and the first time they caught you off base, they killed you. Right? Or they killed you gratuitously, like Amo. Right? Or gave you a disease like Rinaldi.
And
but
so
they killed you in the end.
Yeah,
you could count on that. Stay around and they would kill you. So he's not doing well. He's
and again, who's like this is this view of what
just
war
like the world
does.
right? Yeah,
and what the
like,
world
yeah
he's just seen the machine of war chewing up, spitting out. It's a game of chance, right? The longer you play, the more likely you are just to get to die in wartime. And he's now going, and in life too. The longer you're around, the more likely this stuff is going to happen. It's like this is very like fatalistic viewpoint of this. And fine, yes, everybody dies. Totally, like sure, like, yep, we all know that. Like it's the most deterministic thing in the world. Like, everybody, but like here he is, like exactly. That's what they want, and it's viewed again this full like viewed as punishment and viewed as this thing, and how he brings in like. At first, like, yeah, he's talking about life, but because he brings in Rinaldi and Amo, is like, oh no, this is war. Like, this is what he's bringing in from here in this perspective.
Yeah. So then he goes in to check on Catherine, and the nurse basically shoos him back out again. Tells him to go get some supper. Right. Which again is just sort of a way of telling you how long this day has been. Right.
Because they start early in the morning.
Yeah. He goes back to the same dumb cafe.
Oh, and here's where he starts. Well, he really starts to drink here, but
oh yeah, that's
right. Oh, sorry. No, before this, I did want to ask you about this too. Point of the ants in the fire.
Oh man, that part was weird. Yeah. So he does start talking about this. Well, he's talking about like he's struggling again with the concept of like religion and God, right? Because he says he's talking about like how like his conclusion is that it's not there because otherwise why would things like this happen? Because he even said when he's talking about this, he threw a log on the fire and the ants came out, and for a brief moment he thought, oh, I could be the Messiah and lift the log from the fire and throw it where the ants could get to the ground and save them, but I did nothing
but throw a tin cup of water on the log.
Yeah.
And then he said, I think the cup of water on the burning log only steamed the ants.
Yeah.
So saying the little thing that I tried to do, one thing that didn't even help and actually made the situation worse. Right? It was more of a grueling death too.
So like it's almost kind of also like a nihilistic approach of like, what's the point of doing anything? Because doing anything just like it doesn't matter. Right? Things are going to happen whether you do take an action or not. Right? And your actions are so, in the grand scheme of the universe, your actions are so insignificant that they can't change the course of anything.
Right?
So why bother?
Why bother?
Right?
Why
that's kind of where he's ended up at this moment.
Yep. And then this is where, with this in mind, he goes to eat dinner. And they're all out of veal stew. But
of course.
But it's finished.
So you can have some. This reminds me of the thing that my brain jumped to is very inappropriate for this particular time in the book. But I thought about that Monty Python skit about like the spam at the diner. Oh, because they're like, you can have. He's like, what can I have to eat? Ham and eggs, or eggs with cheese.
Yep, or eggs with cheese.
Right. It reminded me of that Monty Python skit, which is like, what do you have? It's like spam, spam and spam, spam eggs and spam. What if I don't want spam? What about the eggs and spam? Oh no, that has got spam, hasn't it? Like,
yes,
that's what it reminded me of. Anyway, yes, he goes back there. Um, he just sits at this table for where it's quite a long time, right? Um, he's drinking a lot, and he's reading the back of the paper that is the dude that's sitting across from him at the table.
Yeah. When he realized I was reading the back of his paper, he folded it over.
Yeah.
And I thought of asking the waiter for a paper, but I could not concentrate. It was hot in the cafe.
And the air was bad, right? And there's like it's kind of busy, which is weird. It's so busy, even though like all the food is gone. Like I don't really know what's happening here, but like
no. When they were up in the chalet, they had talked about, do we really want to go to busy towns? Do we really want to go be around a bunch of people?
Oh, true. Yeah.
Here's another thing. I don't think he's comfortable being in large groups of people.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And how this goes around. I think this was a remote thing. They talked about, it won't be that busy, or maybe we'll go to the less busy town somewhere. So he's in a really busy place,
feeling like surrounded
on all sides. Crammed. It's hot. It's been raining and it's kind of been snowing, and like we're just out of that. Now it's hot. It's claustrophobic. And now there's people everywhere. He's panicking in this. This is true. Like this is a thing where people who come back from war, they have problems with crowds and being in crowded places. And now that's all he's talking about, of the movement, the busyness, how things are going. And he doesn't have his one person to be alone.
Yeah. So he says, suddenly I knew I had to get back. I called the waiter, paid the reckoning, got my coat, put on my hat, and started to the door. I walked through the rain to the hospital. Right. And so he meets the nurse. She says, I've been trying to call you. He's like, what? And she is hemorrhaging. Right. She's bleeding. And she says, it's very bad. It's very dangerous. And so now his downward spirals more down.
And he says, so we've moved from the rain to now, he says, the nurse went into the room and shut the door. I sat outside in the hall. Everything has gone outside. It was gone inside of me. I did not think. I could not. I knew she was going to die, and I prayed that she would not. Don't let her die. Oh, God, please don't let her die. I'll do anything.
Yeah. Depleting, right? Here. Then he goes in. And her response is really, again, it's quite awkward. She says, I'm going to die. She said, I hate it. Right? That was her response, that this is annoying to her.
Yep. And then he says, I took her hand. Don't touch me. I let go of her hand. She smiled. Poor darling. You touch me all you want.
Yeah. She later, she says again, she's like, I'm not afraid. I just hate it. And so, that's.
Well, then he says, they're saying, you stop talking. You talk too much. And then even now he says, do you want me to do anything, Kat? Can I get anything to you? Can this, if I just do one more thing, can I keep you happy? Can I do something for you? Right. And like right now, do you need anything? Can I do something? Can I help you? Can we get through this? Like,
he's like, no.
Yeah.
Yep. So he goes out for a little while
because the doctor's like, you must go get out because she can't be talking.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
And then
she's had one hemorrhage after hemorrhage after hemorrhage during this time.
And so she like falls unconscious, and then she was unconscious all the time, and it did not take her very long to die. Yeah. There we go. Right.
Yep.
The doctor's all, apologetic, and he's really feeling bad. And he's like, can I take you back to your hotel? He's like, no, thank you. I'm going to stay here. It's like, are you sure? It's like, yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Cause the doctor is saying, well, the operation, probably, he's trying to, he says, no, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah. And,
and then he goes back into the room. And this part was really kind of awkward too, because he goes in and the nurse is like, "You can't be here." He's like, "Yes, I can't. Get out." Like, there's no point in you being here anymore, nurse. Like, it's over. It's done. Right?
And he says, and he keeps trying. This next line is, once he's alone, he says, "But after I got them out and shut the door and turned off the light, it wasn't any good. It was like saying goodbye to a statue. After a while, I went out, left the hospital, and walked back to the hotel in the rain."
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Dang.
It wasn't any good. Right?
Nope.
It wasn't any good. Nothing to be done. No way to make it better, or just we ran out of things to do. And because you so this is, I don't know, like, major takeaways from this book. At all, why I ask you this: why was this titled "Farewell to Arms"?
Oh, it's from a poem.
Oh,
right.
Yeah,
got the name from a poem, like a 15th century poem too. It's very old. I read it. Did you read it? Did you look at that?
Right. I did. I was just curious, like, why? Yeah.
So we have like a double scenario here, right? Like, we have a farewell to Arms, in that he is leaving the war. He's trying to escape, right? He's escaping the arms of war, like munitions and things like that, in that sense, right? But in so doing, he loses the arms of his lover.
Yeah.
Right? We've lost those arms, like her embrace, right? So he's lost everything, really. He has nothing now. So he's tried to escape from one thing and ended up losing the one thing he cares about. Right? So yeah. That's what I think. I don't know if that's true or not, but
no, it makes sense. Yeah. I don't did we I'll read the poem. It kind of in context here. It says this was a George was this George Peele?
Yeah,
that was. Yeah, he said, "My golden locks, time hath the silver turned. O time too swift, a swiftness never ceasing. My youth gasped time, and age hath ever spurned. But spurned in vain, youth waneth by increasing. Beauty, strength, youth are flowers, but fading seen. Duty, faith, love are roots and evergreen." We see that actually in the story of the beauty, the youth, the things throughout. I mean, it ends by saying, "And when I saddest sits in homely cell, I'll teach my swains this carol for a song. Blessed be the hearts that wish my sovereign well. Cursed be the souls that think her any wrong. Goddess, vouchsafe this aged man his right to be your beadsman. Now there was your night. Now that was your night."
Yes.
Yeah. Giving it up. Giving it away. Yeah, I agree. The farewell to arms being the farewell to literally everything in his, because he knew, as far as we like, obviously he was old enough to know not war, but it's that he had lived.
But
right
in the last 5 years, like, that's all he had. So, like, it wasn't like that was it. There was nothing else in his life except for that, until her, and then he ended up losing her as well. So yeah, there you go. Like,
yeah. And well, keep looking forward to these winter reads year after year.
That's we're gonna have to
real.
Yeah, that's a real rough one, right?
That was no. Yeah, it's hard to. It did. What do you say about that?
Yeah, it's a lot. So in order to parse this, I have decided I have a challenge for myself for next week. You ready?
Yeah.
Right. Because we read this, because it's going to be on the, or it's on the list, right? With the list of, my brain just went numb. But like,
it's late. It's late, people. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. But the copyright free list or whatever.
Oh yes.
Right. Think fair use public domain. There we go. Words is hard.
Did it.
Words is hard, Brandon. Into the public domain, right? So my question is, I was going to try to help answer the question is, should somebody do something with this, right? Should there be like, does this story deserve an adaptation of some sort, right? Especially because there's already 2 movies, right? That was made in like the 40s or something, or the 50s maybe. So they're both free online to watch. So my homework for next week is I'm going to attempt to watch them. It may not. We'll see if I get it done this week. We'll see. My homework is going to be, I'm going to give you a review of the current Farewell to Arms offerings in cinema form.
Current from 1932 and 1957. But yes, I understand.
So when I say current, I mean the ones that you can find.
The only 2 existing movies.
Yeah. Right. And does it deserve a remake? Right. Is this a story? I don't know if this is a story that needs more exposure, because it's like really not happy. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is my homework, so I'm going to review these for you and our listeners. I'm going to attempt. We'll see if we get it done next week, but that's a lot of depressing movie to have to watch. But probably won't do it all in one go.
Yes. I look forward to hearing who Gonzo plays. That's all I'm going to say. The Muppet remake.
This is not for the Muppets, right? This is too much for them. Well, I will. I look forward to that and what a remake would look like, and and what your suggestions are after you do your research. And I will end us with a haiku. All right.
Right now. Cold winds whisper path. Frost melts into earth's warm breath. Spring stirs, waking slow.
Oh, that's the ending we need. A positive, uplifting ending to this, right? We need. Good job.
Thanks.
Way to bring it home.
Better things forward.
Oh, yeah.
The spring is coming. And on that bombshell.
Oh, yeah.
Better things we will end there, and we will.
That's true.
Do this again next week.
We better get one heck of a good summer book, because oh my God.
That's exactly what I'm thinking as well. Need good summer book. So put your thinking caps on.
This makes Pony's feelings feel just like happy fun time, man. Let me tell you. Like
he was a well-adjusted human being.
Yeah, right. He really was. I'm sorry, Pony, for anything bad I said about you. Right. I did not compare you to
sorry to be disparaging you. Anyway. Yes. Now we can put our eyes on our summer list and see what we can find.
Right. Jovialness. And
smiles and jokes and fun.
Smiles. Yes, perhaps mirth. Perhaps
happy endings.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe.
We can hope. Right? We'll see.
See if we can track one down.
All right.
Okay. Very good. Well, we did it. We did it.
We did it.
Ha-ha.
Hooray.
And on that bombshell, we'll end. We'll talk to you next week. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.